My parents were ready to send me to Notre Dame. They didn't have a lot of money, but they were willing to sacrifice whatever they could to send me to Notre Dame. But I got this scholarship, so I would take it. It's a very strange school. It had 5 classes, and it was entirely funded by a Chicago businessman, entrepreneur. He was a bachelor, and he had taken all of his resources and put them into a foundation for education. And he was funding this high school. And his goal was to create students who would be engineers, because his company was called Amphenol Corporation. They're a very large manufacturer of various kinds of electronics cables. And I really don't know what he himself had studied. Nevertheless, he wanted to have engineers who would also be good business people. So it was a 5-year program. We didn't have too many resident faculty. The brothers there, I think they were Benedictines, it's hard to remember that. But there were, they taught the liberal arts stuff, English and history and religion, all that, all those things. But they brought in the technical people from the University of Chicago's math departments, Argonne National Laboratory. They were our professors. And so I was a freshman there, and the school had been in existence maybe 20 years. And each class had in it about 30 students, so there were 150 of us. We had a football program, we had a basketball program. We had 2 good basketball players who were stars in high school, who were there at the school. In any event, the surprising thing is that after 1 year, Mr. Schmidt, Arthur J. Schmidt, who was the founder of the school and total benefactor, decided to close the school. Not because of money, but he wasn't achieving his goals. These students were recruited all over the country, and they were very smart. So they were all going on for PhDs at Caltech, MIT, whatever, and becoming professors and researchers. Not what he wanted. He wanted them all to become business people who were smart engineers. And he wasn't succeeding, so he closed the school. And when he did close the school, he offered us all an option to go to any college that would accept us. But he had special deals set up at Marquette University in Milwaukee and Notre Dame University because he wanted us to go to Catholic school. Well, I wanted to go there anyway, so after 1 year in college, we went to Notre Dame. That's the beginning of my college education, which was great. It was a good place to have gone to school. I went to later graduate school, got a master's degree at Northwestern, and met my wife there. She was introduced to me by my sister, and that's a long story, our courtship, etc., but it'd be boring you to go through it all. In any event, after about a year and a half, or a year, I think probably a year, we decided that we should be married. And at the time, she was working in New York City. She was a flight attendant for Pan Am World Airways. And we got married. We wanted to be married in Italy. Then we realized all of our family was going to be going to Italy, and we said no. Instead, we'll be married. We were married in my parish church. Betsy, by the way, was a Southern Christian from Kentucky. And she decided to become Catholic. And I didn't request that at all. It didn't mean anything to me that she become Catholic. But she was a very wise woman and wonderful woman. And so she started looking into it before we were married, while she was still working in New York. And I had gone to New York, by the way, to work as well because she was there, my first job after the master's degree. And she met a priest at the Paulist church down there, and Paulist priests have their headquarters in New York City. They have another one in San Francisco. You know Father Terry at our church? He's a Paulist priest. In any event, this Father Lloyd was a wonderful guy, not much older than we, and she learned about Catholicism drinking beers in the bars over on First Avenue, right next door, very close to where the church was. Life is very interesting because you never know how these things are going to develop. In any event, she decided she wanted to become a Catholic, and we were going to be married during Lent. We went and talked. We came to Chicago. We had the dates set up and everything. But the priests at our parish, my parents' parish, were really reluctant to marry us during Lent. And we said, well, if you don't marry us here, we're going to Europe or we'll go someplace else and you'll marry because we're being married now. And they agreed to do it. We had a wonderful honeymoon because of her being a flight attendant with Pan Am. We flew free to where did we go first? We went to London. And of course we flew back. And we managed to stretch 1 month into 2 months by changing our itinerary because we were only supposed to be able to fly free for 1 month. But everything seems to work out. We spent 2 months on a wonderful honeymoon in Europe, spent only $1,500 for 2 months. We bought a car there, a little Volkswagen Bug. It didn't even have a radio. It didn't have a gas gauge. It had a gas tank. Oh yeah, but it had a little lever, so when you ran out of gas, there was a gallon reserve. And you flipped the lever, and then it was good for a gallon, and then we found a gas station in Florida. Yeah. And my wife, by the way, had gone to the University of Geneva for 1 year. She graduated from Northwestern, and spoke French fluently. In fact, all of her life she spoke French fluently. She worked or met with a group of women, I guess they were all women, every 2 weeks. And most of them were from Europe, one was from Canada. They all spoke French, they also spoke other languages, some of them. They had a gourmet lunch that one of them would prepare, and they spoke nothing but French. And she developed a lot of very wonderful friendships through that. Our courtship was interesting because her sister was against her marrying me as a Catholic. And Betsy herself introduced me to a Catholic girl from Northwestern. She said, you should marry Jenny Hartman. She's a good Catholic. And we bowled together, but Betsy and I were kind of drawn together. But at the same time, she had all these other forces. I didn't mention the St. Stephen's Cathedral. When she was a little girl, she went into St. Stephen's Cathedral, and she was drawn by all of how different the church was. How it appeared to her much more spiritual. She had a feeling about it compared to the Christian church, which was more bare and open, as you know, as most Protestant churches. In any event, her mother told her, don't ever go into that church. Well, of course, she said, you'll go to hell. And just like the nuns told us, if you have a mortal sin, you're going straight to hell if you die. In any event, that was enough to get her to go into that church. And she snuck in there when she had the time. So that was the beginning of her connection to Catholicism. In any event, she and my sister were working at Betsy's brother-in-law's business in downtown Chicago during the summer. And Betsy was still, she might have graduated by then, but she was still living there, and she wanted to become a flight attendant. And my sister was talking me up with Betsy, but never doing anything. My sister is a terrible procrastinator. I am too, but nothing like my sister. And finally, Betsy is a woman of action. At one time she said, Betsy, stop. She said to Janet, stop talking about this. She said, fix me up with your brother or forget about it. So she did that. We went out on our first date. I'm not sure it was a great success, but somehow we continued that. And I think we went to see the West Side Story. Betsy was also a performer. She performed in Summerstock in New Hampshire during the summertime. Real performer. She had a good voice, wonderful voice. She studied speech at Northwestern. She was a good speaker. She loved philosophy. Oh God, yeah.